Okay, I want to use this opportunity to appreciate Dr. Oyenusi, Dr. Leke. We used to call him, when we were in Minsk, he was my senior. I was, and they were already there in Minsk before I came in, and they took very good care of us. But there is no way you would not notice Dr. Leke that time. There used to be two Lekes. One was the celebrant today, and there was another Leke Akai, I think, or Aikai or something like that they used to call him. And they were they were the face of Nigeria in those days, in the 80s, in Minsk, Belarus. But for our celebrant today, he was like, we were all looking up to him because he was the most shining star in those days in the school. He was dressing so well. He was the most well-dressed Nigerian in the 80s, in the former Soviet Union, as far as I knew. But today, God has kept you, doctor, to live to be 60, and we thank God for it. And during those days, we were only talking about Nigeria, one Nigeria. Nobody even thought of dividing Nigeria. And I'm so grateful that Dr. Leke has kept that spirit of fighting for Nigeria. And that's why on his birthday, 60th birthday, he's raising up this question for us to discuss which way Nigeria. Should we go our separate ways, or should we remain together? And my own answer is very clear. Of course, Nigeria has to remain together. As bad as Nigeria is, myself and the professor that spoke earlier on, he also studied in Russia, and of course, Dr. Leke, we all benefited from Nigeria to a large extent. Despite all the trouble in that country, we are a product of Nigeria. Even despite the fact that apart from the fact that we got scholarship, the fact that we are even born there, that our blood, who we are today, is a product of that Nigeria. And personally for me, I got scholarship for my primary school, and I think all of you that are here too, through UPN. Awolowo's efforts. I didn't pay for primary school, didn't pay for secondary school. It was also scholarship through UPN or Awolowo's program. And then university, I just needed to do my exams very well, got my WAEC, and I got a scholarship to move to the former Soviet Union. So I'm a product of Nigeria, and I will never betray this country. And I'm going to fight for its unity at all costs. So I believe that Nigeria must remain one. Nigeria, for some reasons, for a few reasons which I'm going to give today. Nigeria is the largest black nation in the world. There is no other black nation that is as large as Nigeria, and there is no single black nation apart from Nigeria that could stand for black people. Nigeria is the only country that God made on the face of the earth that is big enough to speak for the black man. Even other black nations that are doing well or that are doing better than Nigeria, they are still looking up to Nigeria because God made Nigeria to be a superpower of a black nation. And that's why no matter how bad we are doing, we are still going to be commanding the respect all over the world as the largest black nation. And that's why the whole world is looking up to us. And that's why I and you must work to make Nigeria a success. So Nigeria is the largest black nation in the world, and it has to make it. Let me give you a quotation from Nelson Mandela, what he said about Nigeria. Nelson Mandela said, "The world will not respect Africa, no matter how good South Africa is doing." South Africa is doing much better than Nigeria, not in the size of the economy, but at least in the standard of living. And it's one of the countries that is really prospering in Africa. But even then, being the president, Nelson Mandela was the president of South Africa, and he came out to say, no matter how good we are doing or any other black nation is doing, until Nigeria earns that respect, nobody will respect the black man. And the world will not respect Africa until Nigeria earns that respect. If you listen to people from French-speaking Africa or others, you will see that everybody, even English-speaking Africa, they are all looking towards Nigeria. Everybody is waiting for Nigeria to arise. And that's why we must get our ass together and do whatever we need to do to keep our country together and to arise as one black face and one black nation and one African nation that has been able to be successful. If Nigeria breaks up, there will be no face for black nation anywhere. Every nation will just be small countries, and we will be humiliated. We will just be overlooked. But with Nigeria being big as it is, with the biggest economy, with the biggest population, we have a statement to make to the world. There is another statement that Nelson Mandela made. He says, the black people of the world need Nigeria. The black people of the world need Nigeria to be great. Before any black person could be great on the earth, they need Nigeria, because every fifth or sixth person in the world is Nigerian. So the black people of the world need Nigeria to be great as a source of pride and confidence. And that's another reason why Nigerians must make it, to give all people who are not Nigerians, but who are black, a sense of pride and confidence. There is an outspoken professor from Kenya that bears the name of a famous Congo, leader, former leader, Patrice Lumumba we had. So this man was named after Patrice Lumumba, but he was called Patrick Lumumba. He's a professor and in Kenya, and he's a Pan-Africanist. What does he say about this topic? He says, the day Nigeria and Nigerians get it right, the rest of Africa will be liberated. These are not Nigerians talking. This is a Kenyan. Said they are all waiting for Nigeria to get it right. So when the whole world is clinging their hope on Nigeria, is it that now the right time to say we want to break up? No, it's lack of responsibility. It's a sense of frustration that wants to make us to say we want to break up. No, the whole world is looking up to us. Not just Africans, not just black people all over the world. Even the first world is looking up to Nigeria. That's why all those secessionists, either it's IPOB or Yoruba Nation, they will never get the world support. They will never get the international support that is needed for them. Nobody wants to see Nigeria break up. Because if Nigeria breaks up, it's a catastrophe for the whole world. Because Nigerians, now they cannot even cope with Nigerians. We just have economic problem. If it breaks up, 200 million people will scatter. We will just flood all of Europe. We will just flood. In fact, the whole Nigeria itself, the population of Nigeria itself is almost competing with the population of the whole of Europe. We will just flood the whole place, and America, the world being in crisis. They know it. And that's why nobody will support that. And we all need to do the right thing by supporting Nigeria's success. We need to come together, fix our problems, and work together for Nigeria to be successful. Now, I see the agitation for separation and secession in Nigeria as a result of the frustration that is on ground. There is lack of security, there is hunger in the land, and there is anger as a result of that. Now, we think that things are so bad in Nigeria that it doesn't get worse in other nations. Believe me, I and Dr. Leke and other people who have traveled abroad and who have traveled around the world, have traveled to all continents of the earth, will tell you that even if you read, and it's a pity that they have removed history from our curriculum in Nigeria, and we need to begin to study not just history of Nigeria, but history of African nations, history of European nations, so that we'll be able to see what it took these European nations that we are copying now, or that we are looking up to now, to become who they are today. England, France, Germany, the troubles they went through and the hunger and frustration they went through, even though they have been there for thousands of years in civilization, is even worse than what we are going through. But it's also a lack of patience on our side, a lack of, perseverance to go through troubles. We are only 60 years old, friends. And, if you look at Birmingham Palace in the UK, the palace, and even not just Birmingham Palace, look. 4 minutes. 4 minutes?
You have 5 more minutes.
Okay, how many minutes did I have in total?
15.
15. Are you sure I've spoken for 10 minutes already?
Yeah.
Okay, that's fast. Okay, so we will see that those countries, it took them...
Discussion for 10 minutes.
Thank you. It took them ages thousands of years to get to where they are today. We are only 60 years. So I want to approach this question from another point of view. I want to say that Nigeria has actually done better than we are thinking. I'm tired of hearing all the failures of Nigeria. So I want to talk today about the good things Nigeria has done that nobody knows about and nobody talks about. Nigeria has done better than most countries that got independence from 1960 upward or downward. You know, there is no country in the world, and you can go and cross-check. I'm talking today in the event of Dr. Leke, and I know he's an intellectual person, and I know most people who are here are professors. Go and do your research. No country that is younger than Nigeria in the world has done better than Nigeria in terms of economic growth and in terms of GDP. And let me prove it to you. In 1960, when we got independence, you know how much our GDP was? When Great Britain gave us our independence, we were having $1 billion GDP. Now, when we had these sub-regional governments, like sectional, you know, we have Western region, Eastern region, you know, they did a good job. And they took that GDP from 1 billion to 4 billion. So I'm going to use 4 billion as a trash mark today that we, you know, that was the best we achieved in the 60s. Now, 4 billion GDP, that time, our population was 45 million. Nigerian population was 45 million. If you look at it per capita, and our, of course, celebrant today is an economist, so I'm comfortable today. Per capita of Nigeria, on every Nigerian, if you're going to look, how much dollars was coming on every Nigerian? It was 88 naira, 88 US dollars. 88 US dollars per capita. That was the standard of living of every Nigerian when we got independence. Today, Nigeria's economy is between 400 billion to 500 billion. But let's take the lowest one, let's say it's 400 billion. And we have a population of 215 million, making our per capita to be 2,300 US dollars. So 2,300 US dollars is our per capita. What does that mean? Our GDP has grown 400 times. Go and look at the history of nations and tell me how many countries their GDP have grown 400 times or 10,000%. If we take 400 billion as our GDP, it means that we have grown 10,000% our GDP in the last 60 years. Or if we take 500 billion as our GDP, then we have grown 50,000% as our GDP. How many countries can you do research and find out how many countries have done so well? So it's not all about woes in regards to Nigeria. Yes, we have problems today, but what I'm saying is that we can overcome our problems today by confronting it, coming together and face our demons. If Buhari is not doing well, let's remove him. Let's vote in somebody else that could do better. The population growth in 60 years or in Nigeria, and I think these are the two areas where Nigeria has failed us, where our leaders have failed us. It's not even in economy. The failure of Nigeria is not even in insecurity or the hunger that we're experiencing today. It's in two things. In the failure to regulate our population, number one, and number two, in the failure to develop our human capital. Can you imagine up to now, only 60% of Nigerians are literate. So they have not developed the potential, the human potential of our people. So that's the biggest failure of our leaders. The second biggest failure is that our population has become our albatross. Albatross in the sense that it has become the cause of all our problems because we didn't regulate it. Let me show that to you. The population growth from 1960 to now, our population grew about almost close to 400%. 400% growth since 1960. That is crazy. Let's take the United Kingdom and say how many times did they grow? United Nations population grew from the same period of time, 1960 to now, only 30%. Only 30%, but our own grew 100 times more than UK population. So what I'm saying is that with the GDP growth that we have experienced over the 60 years, if our population also has not grown as rapidly as it has, but it has grown, let's say, the same rate as the UK population, we would have been one of the most The most, the richest people in the world, the richest people group in the world, because our standard of living would have been so high that it would be mind-blowing. People will say, how did you attain it? But because we have to distribute whatever we have attained, in that 400 or 500 billion among 200 million people, there is not enough. And that's why we are in hunger today. And that's why criminality is rising, because too many people, too many mouths to feed, and we don't have enough money to feed them. Meanwhile, the British population grew by only 30% in 60 years. Can you believe that? While Nigerian population in 60 years grew by almost 400%, 377% growth, while British grew by 30%. So it's like 100 times our population outgrew the British population. So what was the British population at our independence? British population was 58 million, and our population was 45 million. But now, see what is happening. So the problem of Nigeria really is that they didn't regulate our population properly. Or even if you are going to let the population explode like that, without giving them education, without being able to feed them, I mean, it's almost impossible. Even if British economy has grown, I mean, the British population has grown by 400% in the same period like Nigeria, they too would have been experiencing the same kind of problem we're experiencing now. I bet you. Because there is no way you will be an economy, just like a house that is designed to sustain, like the house that collapsed in Lagos. Yeah, that's a good example. A house that is designed to sustain the foundation, that is built to sustain 15 stories, you will not go and put 21 stories on top or 30 stories on top. It will collapse. Same thing that is happening in Nigeria now is because the economic foundation that we have, our GDP, is not built to sustain 200 million people. So if we want to have 200 million people, then we have to do something out of this world. Our economy has to grow, not just by 4 times or 5 times that we are talking about. It has grown by 10,000%. Or if we are 500 billion, it has grown by 50,000%. I mean, it is already impossible for an economy to grow so big, but in such a short time. But if we want to have 200 million, then we have to grow by like not 50,000%. We have to go by 1,000,000% to be able to have the same comfort that Western world is having or Britain is having. So, but things are not really as bad with Nigeria as an entity as we are looking at it. Nigeria is a success story if you are going to look at the history of nations in general. But from the perspective of today, the pain that we're experiencing today is what is making us to cry woe and say, oh, this country cannot live together. We have all this trouble and all these problems. It will never be resolved. We can never live together. This country is a failure. It's not a failure. If you look at all the table of nations, and look at how long they have been existing, how long they have been, existing together as a nation, and how much they have been independent, and what is the result they have, how much is the size of the economy. Can you believe that right now we have over 200 countries in the world, and Nigeria economy is number 25. Even the way we are right now, with all our failures, with all the troubles that we have, we are 25th biggest economy in the whole world, despite our failures. But why is it that we are 25th the biggest country, richest country in the world, but then our lifestyle, our GDP per capita, our standard of living is one of the lowest in the world? Why? Because that 25th position economy that we have, to which is the 25th richest country in the world, we have to divide it by too many people, to too many mouths. That is now what brings down the standard of living of our people. So the first thing we need to regulate is the population. We need to regulate the population of our people. We need to regulate the size of Nigeria, the population, not in the sense of breaking them down, no, but by making sure that we did what China did. That first of all, let's stop to build the economy, so that the economy will be big enough to feed the mouth that we already have before we begin to grow again. Like now, China has also released the population to keep on growing now. But first of all, they needed to stop it for a time for the economy to catch up. So that's what we need to do. And before we even begin to grow the population again, we must make sure that we educate the ones we have now, that we give them enough education, that we develop the human capital that we have. So if I think we have to put a regulation like not more than 3 children for a woman, not less than 3 children for a woman. But if you are going to have more than 1 wife, so you have 2 wives or 3 wives, so then by family, not more than 6 children by family. Or, so all your 6 or 10 children, 10 wives or 3 wives, they cannot have more than 6 children. If that, at least that kind of regulation will give us time to catch up economically, to be able to produce enough to feed ourselves. Because if we are going to keep on exploding the way we are exploding, we are going to allow things to keep on growing the way it's growing, it's out of hand. There are going to be more hunger, more frustration, more division, and more, lack of, we will not make it. Things are going to keep on getting worse. So our population is our albatross. We need to fix it. If we don't fix it, things is going to get worse. So the way things are supposed to be is this. The population is supposed to grow slower than the economy is growing. The economy is supposed to grow at least 10 times faster than the rate of growth of the population. 10 times, maybe 100 times even. In the case of UK, Great Britain, it is 100 times faster that the economy is growing than the population is growing. Now, our economy is growing slower than our economy. Nigeria's economy is growing by 10,000%, while UK's economy is growing by 3,000%. So we are growing like 3-4 times more faster than British economy. But because their population is growing so low at such a low rate, then thanks to that, their economies grow that is 3,000 in the past 60 years. The economy has grown 3,000%, while their population has grown only by 30%. So 100 times the economy is growing more than the population growth. That is what we need to do in Nigeria. We need to make sure that our economy is growing at least 10 times or 100 times, like in Britain, faster than the population growth. That is how you are going to be able to give quality of life and standard of living to your people. Then we have to choose. If we want to just keep on amassing population without control, then we have to agree to ourselves that then we have to agree to live in hunger. If we want to keep on living in hunger, then we keep on growing the population the way it's growing now, and the economy trailing behind the population growth. But if we want to live in prosperity, we have to choose. Do we just want to keep on having big number in population for every family to keep on giving birth to 5 children, 6 children, or more like they are doing now, every woman giving birth to 5, 6 children? Or we want to give the ones that we already have quality of life, quality living, standard of living. If it is standard of living that we want for them, then we need to slow down the growth of a population and begin to work on feeding the mouth that we already have, growing the population, the economy, so that the economy will be 10 times or 100 times bigger, of growing faster than the population growth, so that we'll be able to have good quality of life for our people. Now, let's go back to Great Britain. Great Britain's GDP in the last 60 years grew by 3,600%, whereas their like I said already, their population growth grew only by 30%. So that is healthy. It's 100 times slower in population growth than the economic growth. The economic growth is 100 times faster than the population growth. But in our place, it's the opposite. We are not producing anything as such. Our economy, even though it has grown big, but our population has grown even faster. It's a catastrophe. So in our own case, our economy has grown deep, it has grown. In fact, another proof that Nigeria has done so well as a country, to become number 25th largest country, largest economy in the world in 60 years, there is no one single country that is younger than us and is doing better than us. In that 24 other countries that are ahead of us, there is none of them that is younger than us. And by our population too. So, but because of but with the result we have right now, we are doing better than any other country that is younger than us or that is our age. We are doing better than any other country. Now, so all other countries that are ahead of us is because their civilization has been together for much more longer. So, because the average growth of Nigeria's economy since independence, you know what it is? You will not believe it. It's 800% yearly growth. 800% yearly. If you even take 4,000, that we had 4,000, 4 billion GDP, 4 billion US dollars as our GDP at independence. Let's say 4 billion. Calculate that to what we have today. You will see that it is 800% yearly growth for us to be where we are today. So 800% yearly growth is crazy. It is unbelievable. So when people talk right now, they compare Nigeria to Singapore, compare Nigeria to Taiwan, compare Nigeria to Botswana, compare Nigeria to those little countries. Singapore. How many people in Singapore? 4 million people. Now, can you now calculate the economy of Nigeria and divide it by 4 million people if we only had 4 million in Nigeria? Do you know we would have been having a country that is much more successful than Singapore? Our living standard and our everything would have been double, 3 times, 4 times more than that of Singapore. So we are not. There are two ways to look at these things. When we just look at one way and you compare Nigeria to Singapore and declare that we have failed, is because we are not considering the reason for that. Yes, we've had civil war, we've had military regimes, but even those ones have not slowed down our growth. The average growth we have recorded in a year has been 800% yearly. For the last 60 years, 800% yearly. It's not possible in the history of mankind. But the reason why we are not feeling it, or we are feeling rather the opposite, as if we are the worst country in the world, is because of the population growth. Because we could say, oh, if not for the population growth, we will not even have that kind of growth. No, we will have it. Because we had that population growth has been thanks to our natural resources, our oil. So it's thanks to the oil that we have now grown to be who we are today. So it doesn't matter, even if we had been only 2 million people, we will still have, just like Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia too has the same, we are even less, more than us, or the source of oil. And that's why they have high level of standard of living, even though they don't have 200 million people we have. So we have the same kind of situation. But because we didn't lower our own population growth, the same amount of wealth that we have, that is almost comparable to Kuwait, Qatar, Dubai, even bigger than them, really. But because our population is eating up the whole thing, we don't feel it. So, no, but our growth, economic growth, is not thanks to human capital. So that is the second place where we have failed. But that is also the place where we have hope. Because now, if our country will begin to focus on human capital development instead of on oil or natural resources, then we could have the second wave of growth. So we still have the potential to keep on growing at 800% a year if we will only maximize the potential of the human resources that we have. But unfortunately, we are not maximizing that yet. So if the Nigerian government should do something, there are 2 things they must do. Number one, lower the, put a family planning in place and lower the rate of growth of population. Because right now, Nigerian population grows by 5 million people a year. Every year, 5 million people. We cannot even feed the one we have now, and every year we're having 5 million to add to it. It's crazy. So that has to be reduced drastically, and then we have to now build human capital resources for our people. All our people have to be educated. It has to be 100% literacy in Nigeria. And they have to give them skills and profession and everybody to become productive. That is how we could sustain the growth and even double the growth to catch up with the rest of the world. Now, let's go back to our state at independence. At independence, like I said, we had very horrible standard of living. Most of our people were living in poverty. You know, we were living on $88 a person. Now it is, compared to now, is $2,300 or $2,400 now per person in the average. But the growth in our standard of living is 2,000%. 2,000% growth. But it is very bad because that growth in standard of living is only 2,000%. Why? Because, you know, too many people. But the economy has grown at, if we take 50 billion, at 50,000%. So 50,000% growth in the economy is good as that is, and as great as that is, it's not good enough to sustain the big economy we have, I mean, the big population we have. If we take only 400 billion as our GDP instead of 500 billion, then we will say we've grown economically by, our GDP has grown by 10,000%. But 10,000% is still not able to sustain our people that we have, the number of people we have. So our population is our number one problem. It's our albatross. So while we are growing by 2.6% in the average, but before, this is right now, but in the average since independence, we are growing by 6%, 7%. It's crazy in population. While UK was growing at 0.5%. It is even now, before they were growing at 0.2%. So even now that our growth has reduced a little bit, it's still crazy, 5 million people every year. So what if we only grew by 30% like Britain? Then what would be the population of Nigeria now? Nigeria's population now would have been only 58%. And with 58%, 58 million instead of 212 million that we are right now. We've only be 58 million people. If we are only 58 million people with our GDP growth the same that we are having now, we would be living like Saudi Arabia people. Maybe not as good as Saudi Arabia because they don't have 58 million people. They only have a few million people. But at least we will be we will have good standard of living. So the problem is not that Nigeria has not done well. Yes, maybe we have not done well. Maybe we could have done better. But even as well as we have done with 50% growth, 50,000% growth in 60 years, it is an 800% growth in 800% growth every year. You know, that is a record in the world. But that kind of growth, even that kind of growth, has been reduced to nothing, has been erased by the population that we have. If we had been having the same population as Singapore, or the same population as Saudi Arabia, or the same population as Dubai, of course we would have been living as good as they are living, even better than they are living. That is what Nigerians must begin to talk about right now. So even if our population has grown only at the same rate as UK population, and it's a pity that the UK didn't put this in place before they left us and gave us independence. And our leaders didn't even think about this as a problem that time. So if we had grown the same way as UK in population growth, we would only be 58 million now. And our standard of living would have been much more considerably bigger than what we have right now. Because right now we have a standard of living per capita is $2,300, $2,400. But with 58 million people, we would have been having $9,000 per person. And that would have taken us to a new place. So we can see clearly that our albatross, number one problem of our country is the population. And that population needs to be educated. We need to develop it to become human capital. That is our second problem, where our governments have failed. So our GDP per capita would have been, like I said, $9,000 a year per person. Right now it's 2,000 something. Compare that to 9,000. It would have been 3 times higher. And what would that have translated to? That would have meant that we could have been on the same living standard with such countries as Turkey, a European country in Europe. Turkey would have been the same standard of living. That is where Nigerians are running to today. We would have been at the same standard of living as Serbia, Montenegro, these European countries. We would have been at the same living standard as Mexico, Argentina, Brazil. So we will not be at the bottom of the scale like we are number 20. We are now in standard of living, in economy, in wealth, we are number 25th richest country in the world. But in citizens, when you divide that by citizens, we are number 163 in the world. But we would have been, number 90, something like that, like Brazil. And I was in Brazil. They are living not bad. Standard of living is good. If Nigerians would live like in Brazil or Mexico and Argentina, you would have been thinking that our place is Mecca. Nobody would have been rushing anywhere. No, that is if we had grown only by 30% in 30 years, not by 300 or 400% like we have grown now. Now, Britain, in that scale of standard of living, is only number 30. Britain is only number 30. They were higher before, but in the last 10 years or 20 years, they've had population growing faster too. Even though they are making per capita $40,000 to $45,000 or pounds a year, but they are only number 30. So the fact that UK is not in the top 10 of the living standard per capita in the world, does that mean that they are a failure? No, even the US is not in the top 10 because they have big population. So those countries that have big population, that is always the crisis with them. But even their own population is not as big as Nigeria's population, like in the UK. We also need to maximize our human resources, like I said. If now that we already have this big population, what do? Give them skills, give them education. That should be the priority of our country. Educate our population, give them work, let them bring productivity to the economy. Can you imagine right now that Nigeria's population, the ones that we are relying on, that are really bringing productivity to Nigeria's economy, is only about 20 to 25%. Yes, even though it's 60% that are literate, but how many of them do really understand the economic language? How many of them really finish university? These are people who are just literate to read and write. But I'm talking about people who are really educated, like in the West, who can compete with the rest of the world. Only 20 to 25%. Can you imagine that you remove 70% of the working population of the UK and only 20 or 30% is left? They wouldn't even have the result that Nigeria is having. So this UK and all the European countries, they are all being sustained by human capital development, that the whole population is contributing to the economy. But in our own place, only about 20-25% is contributing to the economy. Even in America, if you remove 70% of the working class not to contribute to the economy, they're just weight on the economy, American economy will collapse. So that is our problem. We don't have human capital. Only 20-25% are sustaining our economy, and thanks to our human resources, our natural resources. We need to quickly begin to develop our human capital so that they will begin to contribute. We have 70% of our country, they are not contributing on the world level to the economy. 70% are cut off from our economy. If we begin to develop those people, give them skills to contribute, to work hard, like Western people work, or like people work in America or in Europe, of course, then we could be talking about having an economy that is growing at the same rate as the population or faster than the population. But we have to make it grow like 10 times or 100 times faster than the population growth that we are going to be having in the future. So if those countries are only relying on 20% or 30% of their population to contribute to the economy, British economy would have collapsed. Any countries, Western countries' economy would have collapsed. But we are not even paying attention to human capital development yet. So that's why we must, only 50% or 60% of our people are literate. We must put in hard work to make sure that everybody is not just literate, but they have skills that will enable them to contribute to economic growth. But thank God we had the oil. The oil and the natural resources really helped us big time. So, but now is the time, is the next level of growth for our country, which is supposed to be the time of growth through human capital development. So the next stage, the next thing that the Nigerian economy or Nigerian government needs to pay attention to right now should be reduction in population and developing human capital development, making sure that every Nigerian is skillful enough to contribute to the economy. If we do that, then we'll be poised to overtake. We will definitely overtake England and all other European countries in the near future. In the next 30 years, Nigeria will have become richer than England, France, even Germany in the next 30 years. If we just continue growing the way we are growing right now, we will be doing better than England in the next 30 years. And those are not my words, because that's what happened with Brazil and Portugal. When Brazil started getting their acts together, now Brazil has overtaken Portugal, the country that colonized them. Because right now the population of Brazil, the economy of Brazil is 1.5 trillion. Why Portuguese economy is 230 billion. So even Nigeria's economy is bigger than Portugal's economy. Nigeria is a richer country than Portugal right now, not in potential, but in real economy. The same thing, we are not even talking about Brazil. Brazil's economy is 552 times, 550% bigger than the economy of Portugal. The same thing will happen to Nigeria in 30 years. We will be many percentage bigger than the UK economy if we just keep on growing at the rate of 5%. Right now we are just growing at the rate of 2%. If we could, but during the time of Obasanjo, we were growing at 7%. And I think we could go back there. If we begin to grow at the rate of 7%, and we sustain that for the next 20 years, we will be one of the top 10 countries in the world. So everything is not lost for Nigeria. I have hope in Nigeria, and I believe that we just need to come together and put our ass together. Nigeria's economy is projected to be ranked, even right now, the way we are right now with all our troubles, is projected to rank among the top 10 economies by 2050. And our GDP is supposed to be 6.4 trillion. 6.4 trillion, even if we continue growing the way we are growing right now. At least, but not right now. Right now we are just coming out of recession, but at 5%, at 5, 6, 7, 6%, we will be in the same league. And this is not I who's saying it. This is by PwC. PwC is one of the leading auditing companies in the world. They are the one who say Nigeria, Indonesia, and Mexico are supposed to displace United Kingdom, France in the top 10 economies of the world by 2050. So there is hope for Nigeria. Even if we are only growing at 5 to 6%, our Nigerian government must hear about this, and we must aim towards it and attain this. Once this, and I think that we are going to get to 6% in the next 2 years. And if we can sustain that for the next 10, 20 years, then we'll be able to do. But even if we are going to sustain that, and we are going to become 10th richest country in the world with $6 trillion, and our population keeps exploding, we will still be as poor as we are today. But the Nigerian government needs to do something about the economy. About the population. We need to regulate the population, and we need to make sure that the people we already have, we empower them as human capital resource for the country. And then, we are saying we have bad leaders, bad leadership. Maybe yes, but let's take control. Let's go and take over the political life and become the leaders. What's stopping us from going there and become the leaders? But I think the biggest problem Nigeria is having, apart from these things that I said, where the government has failed. The government has failed in regulating our population, and they have failed in developing our human capital. But the biggest problem Nigeria is having is not even that. The biggest problem Nigeria is having is not even leadership. It's our value system. The value systems are collapsed. And that is maybe one of the things that the leaders should take, our leadership must pay attention to as well, to begin to make sure that they bring good values and virtues to our people, that our people become godly people. And that is what will determine the future of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Peace.